Did dead people vote in Georgia in the 2020 presidential election, providing evidence of fraud? No, that's not true. Of the 4 main cases mentioned, just one looks like an instance of potential fraud. Officials in the 3 other cases told lead stories they did not believe any unlawful activity took place. They provided explanations for each case. The claim appeared in a Facebook post published by Team Trump on November 12, 2020. The post was a clip from Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Titled, "Exposed, Dead Americans' Identities Were Used to Vote in the Election," it read, quote, "The liberal media says voter fraud doesn't happen. They're lying. Someone used the identities of dead people to vote in the presidential election. Here's the proof." End quote. This is what the post looked like at the time of writing. Source: Facebook screenshot taken on Tuesday, November 17, 21 hours 20 minutes and 23 seconds 2020 UTC. In the clip, Carlson said, quote, "Right now, fewer than 15,000 votes separate Donald Trump from Joe Biden in the state of Georgia. It's close enough that it's worth getting specific about what happened there." End quote. He then got specific, detailing 4 cases, starting with that of Deborah Jean Christensen of Roswell, Georgia. Carlson said, quote, "Those who knew her were sad when she died last May, and they might be surprised to learn that even after her death, Deborah Jean Christensen still managed to register to vote and then cast a ballot, presumably for Joe Biden." End quote. Roswell is in Fulton County, the largest county in Georgia, which was a major battleground state in the 2020 election. A spokeswoman for the county dismissed Carlson's claim. Jessica Corbett wrote, quote, "We do have a record of voter Deborah Christensen. Ms. Christensen registered to vote in Fulton County in 2004. Our records reflect her voter history prior to her death, with her last vote cast in 2018. Her voter registration was cancelled in 2019 through the normal process of database checks with vital records. We do not have a new voter registration on file for Ms. Christensen, nor do we have any record of mailing her an absentee ballot for the November 3 general election. With the information currently available to us, any claims of fraudulent participation in the November 3 general election in Ms. Christensen's name appear to be false." End quote. Next, Carlson cited the case of James Blaylock of Covington, Georgia, saying, quote, "Mr. Blaylock was a mailman for 33 years until he passed away in 2006. 14 years later, according to state records, he was still mailing things. James Blaylock cast a ballot in last week's election." End quote. That's not true. In fact, Carlson himself later apologized for the mistake. You can watch his apology here, quote, "Tucker Carlson issues a correction and gives an apology after falsely claiming that a deceased individual had voted in Georgia. He goes on to assert that he was correct, however, about other dead voters, even though the other report he mentioned was debunked as well." pic.twitter.com/wixtvufrick, Michael Thalin @MichaelThalin, November 14, 2020. End quote. What happened was that Blaylock's widow voted under the name Mrs. James E. Blaylock, Jr. Her husband passed away in 2006 and was purged from the voter database that same year. Officials in Newton County released a statement explaining the case. It read, in part, quote, "The Secretary of State's database does not pick up the prefix of Mrs., and a check in her profile shows she is a female. Her signature on the records reflects that her voter registration was signed as Mrs. James E. Blaylock, Jr., and that is exactly how she signed her name when she voted in the November 3 general election." Newton County conducts its elections and voter registration efforts with transparency and attention to detail and hopes that any reporting on this or any other election to be done the same level of fact-checking and accurate information. End quote. 11 Alive News tracked down Agnes Blaylock, James Blaylock's widow. She told the Atlanta station that her husband, a World War II veteran, was the best man I ever knew. Watch the 11 Alive report here, quote. The full story, https://t.co/n9delaw70jjb, Brendan Keefe @Brendan Keefe, November 13, 2020. End quote. Third, Carlson discussed the case of Linda Kessler of Nicholson, Georgia. He said, quote, "Linda Kessler died in 2003. 17 years later, she was still voting in presidential elections." End quote. That's not true, either. Jackson County Elections Director Jennifer Logan explained the reported case was a mix-up. She wrote to Lead Stories, quote, "Linda Kessler from Nicholson was removed from voter rolls in 2003 deceased. Linda Kessler of Jefferson different address, birthdate, social did vote as she is entitled to." End quote.